everybody. Welcome to the TEMSEA Leadership Podcast. My name's Eric Claus. Happy to be your host. We have a special treat for you on this episode. We are actually filming this at the Tennessee Ambulance Service Association Leadership Conference in Gatlinburg. And we have a treat. We're going to be having conversations with several leaders and sharing that with you. So we appreciate you joining us today. I know you're going to enjoy this episode. Joyce, thanks for joining us on the podcast today.
I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So we are here at the Leadership Conference that is in February here in Gatlinburg. You guys have done an amazing job. Like 260 people, leaders from across the state.
Yeah, 260 plus. We had 260 registered. I found out a while ago we registered some at the door, so about 280.
Wow. It's the biggest conference that you guys have had. Yeah. For those that are not familiar with TASA, the Tennessee Ambulance Service Association, tell us a little bit about that. You're president of the organization and you've been involved for many years, but kind of give us an overview of what this conference is about and what the organization's about.
Sure. Well, TASA is Tennessee Ambulance Service Association, and it's a association made up of all the services in the state of Tennessee. They are eligible to be membership of this, where we have a 16-member board. And each year we have a leadership conference in February, usually here at Gatlinburg. And what the goal to that is to get the leaders, the directors, but not just the directors, but the upcoming leaders as well. We try to get as many topics that pertain, like hot topics, whatever's going on in the state at the time. You know, we talk about anything from HR issues to budgeting to staffing. And then the other part of the conference is it gives you an opportunity to just take some time to network. And, you know, people on the west side of the state talk to people on the east side of the state. And you figure out most of the time that you're not in a silo, that the same things are going on across the state.
And the networking is incredible. There's something every night, you know, over breakfast. That's one of I love the conference. I've been part of it many years, but the hallway conversations of people that you meet, and it's incredible. And tell us a little bit about how they can find out more information about the conference.
Right. So we keep everything on our website, and you can go to TennesseeAmbulance.com. And of course, you know, it'll take you to different pages, whatever you're looking for. You can see the board there. You can see the member services. You can see the awards and all that. By the way, congratulations on the President's Award this year.
And you being the president, you got to give me that. It was
my honor.
Well, it was a great moment, and I'm grateful and to partner with you all in the great work. But yes, it was a surprise and a great honor to receive that.
Yeah. Oh, we keep past awards on there. The stuff from this conference will post shortly after we get everything tore down and get back to where we can, you know, take a minute. But yeah, and then it also has the way to contact us on there. So if you want to, you know, email or you know, phone or whatever, it gives you a contact on that website. So that's a good place to start.
Well, we encourage everybody that's listening to make plans to come here, even if you are an aspiring leader. There was a pre-con that we did. It was all about leadership and several of the sessions, but I know a record new attendance, right?
Yeah,
all the new people that are coming in, and which is powerful. And one of the things I wanted to mention is what you all do for the state is, and really on a national level, like legislative things that make a difference for everybody across the state. Your mission is incredible, and some of the work that you've been able to do there. So,
yeah, we're going to have EMS Day on the Hill, where we're going to go up to Nashville, to the Capitol, and visit our legislators and just kind of tell them, you know, what's the hot topics for us and where we need their help. And it's very receptive. It's going to be March 19th. If anybody wants to come and join us. And we're just going to, you know, kind of fill them in and tell them about our industry and all that. We do this every year. We also go to Washington, D.C. every year and do the EMS Day on the Hill nationwide. And it's just, that's another opportunity, you know, to meet and see and learn. And, you know, somebody might have figured out a secret that somebody else hadn't. And so the networking part of that is awesome as well.
Yeah. Well, we're just encouraging everybody that's listening to get involved locally, get involved in organizations across your state, because it does make a difference. We have to be together to make the needed changes in our industry.
Right.
If we don't take an active role, we're just going to have to react to what happens. And that's certainly not the stance. You all have done an absolutely phenomenal job with your organization, this conference, but the things that you all do that most people are not aware of. And we all need to be engaged and we need to be involved. So we wanted to thank you for all the work that you've done in the present and your whole team, because you guys are making the difference in Tennessee, and we're honored. We're honored to be part of it.
Well, I appreciate that. But like you said, team, that's the important thing, because it takes a team to do this conference, but it takes a team to make a difference. And that's why it's important that everybody engages. And, I think over the last few years, we as TASA and TEMSEA have kind of teamed up and and made a difference as a group, and we're kind of headed in the same direction, and we want to keep that momentum going.
Yeah. Well, it is. We have a lot of momentum in the state, and we're all doing it to take care of the patients and to serve. And regardless of what color our uniform is, that's the beauty, I think, about this is we all work for different services, but when we're here, we're all together as a family. And our goal, right?
Yeah.
I mean, our goal was the same. We want to take care of each other, and we want to take care of patients. And you guys model that, and we're truly honored that you spent time with us today, Joyce. And once again, thank you.
I appreciate you having us.
Yeah, well, thank you. And I know we'll be seeing you again soon, and we'll be hooked up. So,
all right. Thank you.
Shout out to TEMSEA and you and Phil. And the course is amazing. I can't say that I did too much for the course. I've gotten to be the byproduct of it, and have actually was super excited to be involved this time. And not only did I have an opportunity to hopefully add some insight, but I learned something every time.
Yeah.
And so that is huge for me from a leadership development standpoint. I think that I still have a long way to go. And so that gave me a great opportunity. But I think back to your question, I think that one thing I've realized over the years, and those who know me may think I have more faults than I give myself credit for, but I'm going to make mistakes, right? And I think that whether it's medical directorship, whether it's in the clinical arena, I'm going to make mistakes. And I think we as leaders have to identify with that and say, we're going to make mistakes. We're going to make decisions that we think are the right ones, and they may not be for your team at the time. And so knowing that as you kind of go through that leadership journey, sometimes you're going to make really great decisions that your team is completely on board with and understands. And then sometimes you're going to make those decisions, say something that kind of whittles away a little bit of that. And you just hope it's not a big mistake that takes away people's trust, that instead it's one of those mistakes that you make as part of being a leader, and it's not meant in any nefarious way. And those are the withdrawals, right? So you need to get some wins with your team. You need to build up trust so that when those withdrawals do happen, people give you the grace to say, we know who you are. We can move on. We know kind of your intent, even though maybe the delivery or the decision wasn't what we all wanted. They'll give you that grace to move on. So yeah, that's something I think about a lot. And I think it's important, right? It's a bank account. And if you take too many withdrawals, your account gets closed, right? You said that during the conference. And so
it absolutely does. Yeah. We got to be mindful of that. What is, I know you've had many mentors, some of them have been in EMS and kind of really fathered EMS industry from a physician side. What's a couple of things that you've learned from some of the mentors that have taught you and some of the people that you work with along the way that really stood out to you? Can you think of any of those lessons, or maybe one?
Yeah, I'm going to give you a little bit of a nebulous answer to start.
Sure.
And something I learned about mentorship, and we talked about this a little bit the other day, is really good mentors, in my opinion, see something in someone that they want to develop.
Okay.
And sometimes even before that person knows that they have that quality, right? Someone kind of, and I think it's important to do this, whether it's in the EMS arena or elsewhere, look at your team and you're going to see qualities in people that you think, man, you could really be successful at X. You seem to really enjoy it. You're great at it. You have some leadership abilities. And then they kind of help guide you in that direction. I think obviously mentorship can work as well, where you pick somebody out to be a mentor. But I think that a lot of the mentors I have not come directly to me and said, or nor have I asked, hey, I want you to be my mentor. It was kind of this relationship that built over time because they saw something and gave me an opportunity. So I think that's number one is as a leader and as a mentor, really look at those people around you and say, wow, how can I help foster what they're doing? We need more of that, and naturally become a mentor. I think that the other thing is, as a leader, you got to build a team around you and as a mentor, I said that I have a lot of faults, and you as a mentor have to, and as a leader, identify that and figure out how you build a team that brings you up and brings everybody up, knowing that we have all our strengths and weaknesses. So, and I think the final thing is, while you're not going to be 100% happy in everything you do all the time, I think mentors in my life have led me to a place where I'm incredibly happy in my career. And that's not some of it's by luck. I was lucky enough to get afforded some opportunities early in my career. Maybe I should have, maybe I shouldn't have, that I got to develop and now is a huge part of what I do. But I think mentors can really help you navigate where are your strengths, where are your interests. Let's plug you in there so that you really get momentum in your career and find excitement in what you're doing and find that purpose. We talk a lot about purpose. And I think that when you've had a bad day, when you've had a good day, you always should be able to go back and say, what's my purpose in what I'm doing? And that should drive you to keep going. So
powerful statement. Well, you've mentored me over the years and I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the partnership and for you spending a little bit of time with us today, man. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you. I don't want to embarrass you too much.
But by all means, it's good.
I didn't really want to know what I wanted to do with my life for a long period of time. And then 2015, when you and I had the opportunity to meet each other kind of for the first time.
It was the first time.
And launch into this EMS Center of Excellence has just brought so much value and joy to what I'm doing. So thank you. Kudos to what you're doing. I appreciate TEMSEA and everyone else who's working on this project and excited to see where we go.
That's awesome, man. Thank you, man. Man, we're excited. And tell us about you for those that don't know you.
Greg Johnson. I'm the program director for the EMS Academy at Columbia State Community College in Columbia, Tennessee.
So you've been in this field for a while and
almost 18 years now.
Okay. So what has that journey been like for you? So education wise, so walk us through that.
It was following a path of what my family had done. My father was on the rescue squad. And so I promised myself that I would at least try EMS just to follow in his footsteps. And went on my first call and was hooked.
You were down.
Yeah, I've been hooked ever since.
How long you been at Columbia?
I've been in Columbia now 6 years.
Okay. And we have worked together. Obviously, you're part of the TEMSEA board and you've been behind this podcast. And, we've become great friends over the years just for, many, many reasons. I live in Columbia. That doesn't mean that we hang out, but your program is there. And I've got to be part of that and interact with some of your students. And you guys have a very impressive program, just in general, the EMT, the paramedic program. And you introduced the concept of leadership to your students. And I don't think that's a new concept, but I would love for you to expand about having the opportunity to take structure to individuals that may have lacked it, right? And they're being introduced to this very regimented structure of having to potentially save someone's life. So kind of walk us through how you do that and how important it is and some things you've learned from that.
Sure. So I think one of the things that we do best at Columbia State, or something I learned from Dr. Coffin, who I took over for as program director, was this idea of personal leadership, professional leadership, of course. But we form personal relationships with our students. We get to know them. And I think by taking the time to get to know our students, we're teaching them a leadership aspect that it's important that you get to know your people. It's important you get to know your colleagues that you work with, the folks that report to you as a leader at a service. And that obviously then translates over to having a personal relationship or getting personal with your patients and realizing it's not just some human being. You're actually taking care of someone's mom, someone's dad, someone's brother, sister, wife, that sort of thing. So it's an important thing I think we do from day one. We address our students by name every single day. That's our first goal is to learn their names. So we don't just say, hey, you, we're calling them by their name. We learn about their families. We learn their background. And when you find out those little tidbits as an educator, it helps you learn your students in a way that you start to understand why they may be struggling with class. It's not just, they're not dumb. They're not stupid. They maybe didn't know how they were going to pay for breakfast this morning or how they were going to pay for the light bill. So when you can start caring about those aspects, we get into Maslow's hierarchy, right? When you can start caring about those aspects of a human's life, it's important. You had on a recent podcast, someone you interviewed, they had mentioned this idea of putting a sign on somebody's head or reading a sign that says, make me feel special. Yes. And I feel like that's what we do, right? We make every student feel like we truly do care, and we do care about them. And we try to make that come across.
Well, you guys do. I mean, it's definitely an impact. And walk us through and tell us about, so you have a student that comes into the program. What transition do you see from the time they begin to the time they end? Are they different?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. In what way?
We have students that come in shy, they're quiet, they're reserved. They don't talk to folks. They come in and they want to stay in their own bubble and they're there to learn and walk out. And by the time they leave, it's like they've got a whole new family. They're going out to eat with other students after class and they're hanging out and forming study groups and that sort of thing. And then that translates over to the relationships with the services. Once they get on, we hear feedback from the services that our students go to about how personable these students are, that they're engaging with their colleagues, and that they're excited about being there. They're excited to start new initiatives to try to make, cultures and things better with those services.
It's a confidence booster.
Sure.
And I think and I know you, know you well because you're in the program where you're promoting it and, this industry about recruiting young people into this. It's a powerful thing that can change someone's life completely. And any words of encouragement for people that are sort of on the fence and be like, yeah, I don't know if I want to do that or recommend that to my nephew or my son or my daughter. What advice would you give them about the industry?
Yeah. There's two things there. First, I would say it's the absolute best job I've ever had. So day one, part of it is wanting to take care of people, but the second part is wanting to be part of something that's bigger than you are.
Yeah.
And the second part of that is realizing that we talk a lot about this generation and the differences in this generation. One of our instructors says something I think so neat. He says, they're not bad, they're just different. Mm. And so when you start to realize that you can get into that different zone and you can excel in that zone and participate in that and you can encourage others, that's huge for students.
Well, we're grateful for the partnership with TEMSEA, and without your support, obviously, we've got to work on this together. There's a lot of behind the scenes that most people are not aware of. They hear my voice, but there's a machine that is behind this, and you're one of them, and we're honored. And thanks for your service and everything that you do for our industry. You definitely make it better, and you definitely make me feel valued, and I know you do the same for others. Jerome, thanks for being here today. For those that don't know you, tell us a little bit about you.
Well, my name is Jerome Cole. Been with Germantown Fire Department for 20 years. Currently, I am the EMS chief. We cover 19 square miles, and we have a ROS rate of 41%. And
wow.
This year alone, we had 6 saves who walked out the hospital neurologically intact.
Oh my gosh. A testament of your work.
It's a team. It's a team.
How many teams do you have at your service?
We run 6 ambulances.
Okay.
And each one of them are ALS.
Yeah.
And then we have 5 ALS first responder engines.
And for those that are not familiar with where you are located in the state, you're near the Memphis area. Is that right?
Yes, we border Memphis.
Okay.
Memphis and Collierville.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm. Okay. And how long have you been in your role, Jerome?
I've been in my role for 2.5 years.
For 2.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking about leadership, obviously. So a lot has happened probably in 2.5 years, right?
Yes.
So can you kind of share with the audience, someone in your position functioning at a high level, what would some lessons learned that you could share with, leaders that are maybe aspiring to be leaders or leaders that are, doing a similar role? What would you share with them?
Well, first thing I'd like to say is don't wait to be in a position to start working on being a leader. You need to embody that on the ground level and work your way up being a leader, teaching people, helping people, showing the compassion that a leader should have, being caring, being fair. That's very important. I think leadership is one of those things that if you don't embody it, everybody around you will recognize it. When you speak of action speaks louder than words.
Yeah, definitely.
As a leader, that is a true fact. I need to be the person I want everyone around me to be. I need to be consistent. I need to be hardworking. I need to be compassionate. I need to be understanding, a listener. You got to be present for your people. And so I think that is the most important thing of being a leader.
That's powerful. And as you're sitting here talking about this, Jerome, I wish I would have learned that much earlier in my career because I would have been a better follower. I would have been a better teammate before I even had a leadership opportunities. But those principles that you're sharing can be used at any single level.
Any level.
Yeah. And it's a foundation of who we are as providers and leaders. But, we appreciate your service and everything that you're doing. We're grateful that you spent a few minutes with us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's an honor.
Thank you. And we're having a great time. Dr. Kaylee Winkler, we are excited that you are joining here today.
Thank you.
So there's a lot to talk about, and I appreciate you sharing your expertise with us today. So a little bit about your background. Why don't you share a little bit? You're in the fellowship at an academic medical center, but kind of tell us your journey.
Yeah. So I went to medical school like most physicians, and then I did an emergency medicine residency right out of med school. And kind of during my residency developed kind of a fond appreciation for EMS. You get just a little bit of snippet of exposure here and there, but I thought I really wanted to delve more into the pre-hospital environment post-residency. So I did a 1-year fellowship, and it's really kind of fun because you get to experience all the different sides of pre-hospital medicine, event medicine.
Right.
You get to be in the field, you get to fly. You kind of get to see all different sides of it. And so that's kind of been my journey. And next year I'll go out and work as an attending as an EMS physician.
And I know you've had a lot of experience very, very fast, right?
Yep. Yeah. It kind of gets thrown at you all at once. Like I said, as a resident, you don't get to see as much of EMS as you hope. You know, they bring you in patients all the time. And sometimes as a resident, you're so busy learning emergency medicine that you're overwhelmed with them bringing you patients all the time. And you can lose the appreciation a little bit. And so I just think about all the times that in the last year I've been in the field and I've been like, oh my goodness, I did not realize how stressful or crazy this job can be.
It gives you a different appreciation for how hard the work is. And being on the side of the hospital, been on them both, you know, you're there in the room, it's the same temperature of a trauma patient, right? And they're coming in sweating. You're like, wow, there's a whole nother story that happens before the patient gets there. And for you to be part of this conference is a huge deal because this is primarily a pre-hospital provider conference. And there's a group of you physicians that are here, but share with us a little bit about a lesson that you've learned in your career with you being now, you know, you're out of school, you're in a leadership role from a physician side. So walk us through like one of the most important things that you've learned in your journey this far.
Yeah. You know, I think a lot about the mentorship aspect of this for me. And I think about how you get thrust immediately out of residency into a position where you're a leader and you're, you know, mentoring residents and you yourself are seen as a leader and a mentor right away. And no one has really taught you exactly how to do that. You've been learning your whole life. And so you have to find other people who have kind of done it and sometimes made mistakes before you and teach you like, hey, these are the things I've learned. These are the helpful things. These are the people to surround yourself with and the network to build. And I pick their brains a lot still.
And that's a mature move because I think one of the things that happen with young leaders, regardless of, you know, if you're working hospital, pre-hospital, is we're afraid to say we're struggling with something. But those, I mean, if you have a real mentor, they're going to know and they're going to be able to connect to say, me too, I've dealt with that too. But, you know, it's two-sided. For you to be able to recognize that in the very beginning is a huge deal. And we have a couple of the same mentors that we work with that I think, and we're going to be talking to one of them in just a little bit, but being able to connect with people in all levels is such a big deal. But we appreciate what you do. You have a tough job. I know you've been through a lot of schooling and we're just honored that you're in the business of EMS.
Likewise, I appreciate y'all very, very much. I couldn't do my job without you. You have a very tough job. So I appreciate everything you guys do every day.
Well, thank you. And we'll be seeing you around.
Thanks.
Dan, welcome, man.
Thank you, Eric. Glad to be here.
Man, I'm excited. So we're here at the conference. We just finished with day one and having a chance to catch up with you for just a minute. So for those that don't know you, just tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so I'm Dan Fawkes. I'm the EMS director, Gibson County EMS in West Tennessee. I've been in that position for a little over 4 years now. I had some leadership previously at Dyer County. Came over there in December of 19, right before the pandemic hit. So it's been a fun adventure with this position, but I'm enjoying it and just glad to be here at this conference. It's a great conference.
You got a lot of experience through COVID, right? All of us did all the way through that. So it's nice to be on the other side of that and deal with some different challenges. Well, I just wanted to ask you, as we're here and we're doing, you know, several discussions with leaders, let's just talk about some lessons learned and lessons learned in leadership that kind of come to your mind since we're here at a leadership conference on the leadership podcast. Kind of share some lessons learned.
Oh, yeah. Some really good lessons I've learned, unfortunately, the hard way. But,
tell us a couple of them.
Yeah, so documentation is the biggest thing I've learned that just will take care of you. Every conversation you have, it's documented.
Yeah.
And that you've got somebody in there with you witnessing, that conversation.
We're talking about discipline, right?
If we disciplinary actions, those things, just making sure that's documented well, even if it's not even an actual documented discipline, just a corrective, something to get started on the right path, you know, because you got to give them an opportunity to fix what's wrong. They don't know, but documentation on that's a lesson I learned early.
And I have heard, from some leaders and maybe HR to say, there's a problem with an employee. Let's just use problems as an example. So a problem with an employee for maybe a year, and the HR individual sits down and say, okay, kind of show me the conversations that happen. And the individual will be like, I don't have anything documented. At that point, you got to start over again. So you're right. The documentation is critical.
Learn that.
So very, very powerful lesson.
But also on the good side of that are those conversations, have those conversations with your employees, let them know the good stuff that's going on. We always focus on the bad generally, so we need to focus more on the good. And those good conversations will open those doors.
Definitely.
They'll come to you. They'll be more comfortable with you. They're willing to tell you those things that initially they might not be willing to come talk to you.
Yeah, the trust is high at that point. Definitely.
Right.
Is there anything else that comes to mind from a lesson, how do you get to a position like yours? Like, how did that journey kind of work out for you? What were some things that you did that you were recognized for maybe?
So with this one, it was kind of fell in my lap.
Okay.
People told me about the position. I wasn't even aware of it. I do have a bachelor's degree. I earned that first before I went to become a paramedic. So that helped, with securing the position. But
yeah, so you kind of did your prep stuff.
Some previous experience helped, and it was a new face and an opportunity presented itself. So.
Wow. Well, you've done great. And we really appreciate your service and in the communities that are surrounding you. And we appreciate you taking a couple of minutes with us today.
Absolutely, Eric. And I'll definitely recommend the leadership course we did, the pre-con, when it's available in your area. It was phenomenal. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate
I learned a whole lot. New stuff. Great.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you, Dan. Yeah. An honor. So I know we'll be seeing each other, and I'll let you be, man. Thank you. Mark, thanks for being here today.
Great to be here. Good to see you, Eric.
Yeah, you too. We're excited. We've known each other for a long time.
A long time.
Yeah. And I have a little funny story to share with everybody here. Is back in the late 80s is when I came to Tennessee and was working at Murray EMS.
That's
and you were there. That's when I met you. I have shared this publicly, but I wanted to share it on the podcast, is that you gave me the confidence that I didn't have to go to paramedic school. And I'll never forget that. And I'm grateful. And so you impacted my life years ago and, still carrying on that tradition. And to be able to have a couple of minutes spending time with you is a treat for me.
Well, it's been an honor to know you for these years, and you've done so well. And so I'm very proud of you.
Well, I appreciate that. Well, Mark, for those that don't know you, just kind of share a little bit about, I know you've been doing this a long time, but kind of share a little bit about your journey and where you are now.
Sure. I was very fortunate. When I was around 13 years old, I knew what I wanted to do for a career. My dad was in public safety, and he'd got into teaching CPR, and it kind of morphed into going through basically the first responder program, and he got to ride along with the local ambulance service. And I thought that was really cool. Found out they had an Explorer post. So in like late 1982 was the first time I actually set foot on an ambulance, and then went to work in Murray County in February of 86 as an ambulance driver.
Wow.
I was in EMT school, ripe old age of 18. I went to paramedic school. I won't share the story about that, but it's a good story if you ever get a chance. Pull me aside, let me tell you that. Moved to Williamson County in September of 89. It was a challenge for me at the time. Sure. I didn't know if I wanted to do it or not. It was the perfect career choice I'd ever made. So anyway, been in Williamson County since September of 89, and it's been a great journey through different careers or different positions as a paramedic, shift supervisor, and been the assistant chief of the department for several years now.
Yeah. And you guys do an amazing job. You have
very
great
proud
service.
of our organization. We got great people.
Yeah, you do. So Mark, and like I said, I appreciate you spending time. And one of the things I wanted to ask you is, as a leader, your experience, you've been doing this a while. You've got to go through a lot of change. What is one piece of advice that you could share for really anyone that is interested in leadership or in a leadership position? What is that nugget that you're like, wow, that is so profound and it's made an impact on my life?
One thing I like to share with our leadership team, and I try to live this every day, is understanding that when you're dealing with humans, it's all a shade of gray.
Okay.
Everybody has a personal story. They have a life experience. They have life experiences they're going through. Sometimes we fake it well. Nobody ever has a problem when they're at church. Everybody's doing great. And so when you come to work, you bring those with you as well. Now, it doesn't excuse poor performance or bad behavior. That's not what I'm trying to say. But everybody is a shade of gray. And so I think it's really important when you have an issue, especially, to dig deep, try to find out the root cause analysis is the way I could say it, or really understand that person. Every situation is not a nail. You don't have to have a hammer for everything. Again, I'm not trying to excuse poor performance or behavior, but just really understand that people are humans. They bring a lot of stuff to the table, and really look at every situation and understand it completely before you make a decision. It's easy to have a problem and all of a sudden say, you know what, we're going to rush to the end of the street. We know what the answer is, and we're just going to just deal with this. When you finally dig into it, you find out there's a lot more to it than you first thought about.
Yeah, that's great advice. It is. I know it served you well, and certainly served many of us in the leadership role well. But we really appreciate you taking the time today to hang out with us.
Here. It's always fun to talk to Eric. I'm one of those people that works for Eric Claus too. So.
Well, Mark, thanks, man. Always good to see you.
Thank you, buddy.
Sherry, we're honored you're joining us here today on the podcast. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So for those that don't know you, tell us a little bit about you. Your name's Sherry Dean. Obviously, I've known you for a while, but tell us about you.
Sure. My name is Sherry Dean, and I am a nurse by training. I started out in a children's transport team in Kansas City. Fell in love with that. We had the ability to do all modes of transport. So we did fixed wing, rotor wing, and ground transport in a high volume area. I moved into leadership in the early 2000s. I started in hospital leadership after doing a lot of education and consulting. Moved into hospital administration, and worked for a major air operator for about 10 years. And I've been in the Nashville area for about 2.5 years, getting to oversee the Life Flight program there.
A big program, and you've came in, and I had a chance to meet with you when you came in, and you're a great leader. You're a role model leader. You've helped me in many ways, and I'm grateful. And you kind of model this leadership thing. That's why I wanted to talk with you today. And the question that I wanted to ask you, we have a lot of people that listen to this all across the state and even out of state. And so we have a lot of leaders that are in the field that are established, some that are very new. But for whatever level that we're in, what advice would you give? And maybe I'm a new leader. Maybe I'm a year into this or 2 years, and I feel like I'm getting the fire hose effect. What is some significant leadership advice that you've learned that you could share with someone in that position?
I think one of the most important things is once you become a leader, you're not expected to know everything. And so getting comfortable with being able to say, you know, that's a great question or that's a great suggestion. I don't know the answer to it, but let's figure it out. Being okay with not knowing or having all the answers, and then certainly doing what you say you're going to do. So when someone comes with a great idea or a question, saying, you know, that's a great question. Let me look into it a little bit more. And if you don't hear from me by Friday, ping me again because I want to make sure we talk about this. And what goes with is surrounding yourself with people I surround myself with people who I believe are better than I am in areas, and a diverse team is what allows you to do that.
And that takes a while, maturity-wise. But I think because the transition when you get in, you're in the leadership role and you're looked at and you're like, I'm supposed to know the answers, and we don't, obviously.
Right.
But the thing that you had mentioned about not having the answers, in my role in what I'm doing, there's a lot of different problems from multiple areas that are coming in. And that's a powerful thing. And I'm glad you said it because I now know where to get the answer. I don't have the answer for a lot of things. And that, for those leaders that are discouraged about, I need to be able to have the solution to everything. That is not the case. And sometimes that causes harm to our leadership ability and our credibility. But that's very, very, very powerful advice. And, you know, being able to surround your people better. And that is also a mature thing. And how has people that have mentored you helped you? You know, is that something that all leaders you think should find mentors?
I absolutely do. And I have had people throughout my career that saw something more in me than I ever saw in myself. And they were from people that I trusted. And so events like this, where you have the opportunity to network and meet other people who may have either experienced problems or tackled things from a different perspective, just kind of the curbside conversations of talking and learning their style, but absolutely identifying a mentor. And I think there are many ways in which associations or different groups can form mentorship opportunities. So if someone's a new leader, can say, listen, I'm a new leader. This is the type of service or environment I'm working in. Is there somebody you know who I could go to for objective feedback, for guidance to bounce things off of? I think that's really important early in a young leader's career.
That's incredible advice. And we're grateful that you spent a few minutes with us today at TASA.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. Robert, we're excited that you're joining us today. So thanks.
It is my pleasure. 45 years in EMS, and I am thrilled to be standing here talking to you.
Well, I can't wait. For those that don't know you, Robert, kind of tell us a little bit about your background and who you are and, what you've done for EMS in the community. You've paved the way for many of us, and we can't wait to hear a little bit about it and share it with others.
I appreciate that. I'm only as good as those I surround myself with, and I know you're very much aware of that. So I'm Robert Bird, and I'm a career Tennessee paramedic. I'm also a healthcare and transportation lobbyist that come late in my career, and I've got 45 years in
That is a long time. That is a long time.
I'm thrilled with that.
What year did you start?
I started April the 5th, 1979, and I retire on April the 6th. So I will have put in 45 years in one day, which was always a personal goal of mine.
Wow. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. So tell us about that journey, Robert. Yes. There's a lot of change. I mean, you're in the emergency days, which I grew up watching. Obviously, we all know about that. But, to where we are now, what has the journey been like for you?
If I take too long, you just interrupt me and say, speed up, Robert, because it's an incredible journey, an incredible story. I started in April of 79 in Morgan County, Tennessee. We had 2 ambulances.
Okay.
And I truly am. I can say this with pride. I truly was an ambulance driver, quote, because when I started, I didn't have an EMT license.
Okay.
I didn't even know CPR.
Wow.
I started in April as a driver, and all you had to have to be on an ambulance service then was I was 19 years old. I wasn't even 21. And I had a special chauffeur's license. That's all that was required.
Yes.
And I got the job. And then I went to a CPR class. Then I went to EMT school in the fall of 79, paramedic school. And what a great ride. Field paramedic for 11 years.
Okay.
In Morgan and Anderson County. And I had the honor of being recruited to UT Lifestar in August of 1990. And it was a great career. It was one of the best jobs I've ever had. I never intended to leave there. I always thought I would retire from there because I loved it. And during that time, I had the opportunity to be recruited to be a chief in Anderson County. I took it, retired from public service after 30 years and 47 days. I count. I'm a counter.
I love it.
30 years and 47 days in public service as a paramedic and an EMS chief, and immediately went to work for a company called AirVac Life Team, which transitioned into, over the 15 years, Global Medical Response, which is the largest emergency system in the world.
Yes.
And I'm a vice president over government affairs, and I lobby and battle EMS legislation and regulations. And the journey that you speak about, I've witnessed the evolution of EMS from fast driving, pressure dressing to, surgical airways and chest tubes and slowing down and treating the patient on the scene and in the ambulance and in the helicopter. And then I've also seen the transition of, we're taking too long treating patients. So we had to go through a several year transition there of speeding up our time on the scenes. We had gotten too carried away with it. It's a work in progress, and it remains to this day a work in progress. We still don't have it perfected.
Definitely.
We've came so far in this business, and the advancement of patient care. When I was an EMS chief, I used to tell my staff, always put patient care first, because if you put patient care first, your decisions will defend themselves. You won't have to defend what you did. Your patient care defends itself. Always put the patient care first. We'll work out the details after the fact. And I've enjoyed getting to be a part of saving people's lives. Eric, I used to say as a young paramedic, I used to really be proud when I would introduce myself and say, hey, I save people's lives. And as I got a few years on me, I started realizing I need to grow up a little bit. I'm nothing more than a tool that saves people's lives. And once I grasped the concept, if I'm just a tool and I'm part of a team,
Yeah, absolutely. Part of the team.
It became so much better and easier for me to bring team members in and help me.
Wow, Robert, is incredible. I want to ask you one last question.
Yes, sir.
So you're now, 45 years into this journey. You've learned a lot. You've been around a lot of leaders. So what would you say to a new leader that is coming up to you and they said, Robert, I want to know 2 things that that I need to know now that would make an impact in my life. Give us 1 or 2.
I appreciate that question. And it's a very rehearsed answer for me because while many people don't know this or realize it, I have a men's mentoring ministry and I mentor young men in this profession.
Okay.
And most of my mentoring is about really the mistakes I've made and what I've learned. Yeah. While there are great lessons, there are also great lessons in the mistakes.
Sure.
I share that with these younger men to help build their leadership. I think the number one leadership quality, whether it's EMS, whether it's corporate business, which is what I'm in now, or ministry, or even in this facility working here, the key to leadership is being a servant leader. That was a discipline that was instilled in me that came, I think, fairly easy for me to learn because it was instilled to me as a young man. But I found that challenge as a leader in EMS. Many of our young women and young men haven't really been exposed to servant leadership because servant leadership is the key to success because that's what builds a team. It's just not about me. When I was younger and arrogant, it was about me, and I had to go through those times and mistakes. It's about teamwork, and the best way to be a teammate is to be a servant leader. Serve your staff. Give them every tool they need, lead them, and serve them, and the rest will work itself.
Love it. That's absolutely beautiful. And it's something that was common. We just had a conversation with Jimmy Edwards, who you know.
One of my favorite people.
Me too.
Outstanding Tennessee leader.
And your example and his example, and that there's a lot of value in that because both of you have that experience. But coming from both of you, and you're not here together to talk about what it means to serve is such an impactful thing. And I just want to thank you for serving all of us and leading the way for everything that you've done. And the lessons that we've learned from people like yourself. And we're just honored that you spent this time today. And I want to personally thank you for everything you've done for all of us in this community.
Thank you. I appreciate that. What I would like to leave every EMT and paramedic and nurse and pilot that's in EMS, I would like to leave them with this. You will not know this side of heaven how many lives you participated in saving. But when you get to heaven, you'll know.
That's amazing. Robert, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate your service.
Yeah, thank you.
Crook, thanks for joining us on the TEMSEA podcast.
Yeah,
today.
for sure.
Yeah, for those that don't know you, tell us a little bit about your journey in EMS.
So I grew up in Middle Tennessee and coming out of high school actually started in a junior firefighter program, was able to get my EMR and then went to EMT school subsequently after that, but did sort of fire suppression rescue and some EMS as well, and really discovered my love for medicine through that, pursuant to that, went on to do med school and things like that, but have circled back around to be involved in the EMS realm. Just, couldn't shake it.
Yeah, well, it's an honor to have you be part of this. So you work at an academic medical center. Your experience is incredible. I know you focus on ED. You were a flight physician for a long time, and now you're heavily involved in medical directorships. And one of the unique things I know you personally and have seen the work that you've done is you're a very hands-on medical director. You are on the engine, you are in a car, and you're responding to cases.
Yeah.
And what have you learned over the last couple of years since doing that about the EMS community and your appreciation? And so just kind of walk us through that.
And so in my job, as you mentioned, I split time between, of course, the emergency department and then also doing EMS sort of duties, which I'm fortunate, even from the emergency medicine or ED side of things, I split my time between downtown Nashville and then also out in the community, sort of in the areas where, the crews that I'm working with, bringing patients there locally as well. So I think it's one of those things that sort of the farther that you get into your career, you sort of figure out that the less that you know about many things. So, it was an interesting transition, and I still maintain a paramedic license now, but interesting to transition from a role of being a practitioner, from that standpoint to now on this side. I think I figured out that it takes a lot more listening than doing. A lot of times on scenes, really, there's not much that is needed for me to add medically. Sometimes maybe, it's you provide a little bit of that sort of support that, just kind of, hey, I'm here, if you need me. But really, as far as a lot of the hands-on sort of stuff, the crews are very adept and well-versed at doing their job. And sometimes it's as simple as just, I carry the bag out at the end, So I've learned that there's a lot more kind of watching, listening. And really, that helps to inform my role as a medical director to see what's going on, what's working, what's not, what do we need to change? It's immensely valuable from that standpoint.
Well, from a medic, obviously you're working in the hospital setting now, but, experiencing that very, very few times, to be able to have that support is incredible. And it's rare. And for you to be able to serve the EMS community in that way is incredible. I also want to acknowledge that, you are a recognized leader in the state. You are on the subcommittee of the state EMS board, the Leadership and Advancement Committee. We're serving on that together. And for you to be involved at your level, we really appreciate everything you've done for the community and for your service. And we're grateful you hung out with us today.
Yeah, for sure. And it's, my pleasure to be able to do this. I love the emergency department, but getting out and actually being able to do things outside of the constraints of the ER and, quite frankly, see a lot of my friends that I've developed relationships with over a period of years, and to be able to work alongside them is just really cool and very rewarding. It keeps things, fresh for me.
Well, we appreciate it.
Thanks, Eric.
For those that don't know, you tell us a little bit about your background and where you work.
Well, I've been in EMS 29 years and working now at the place I think you started.
I did.
So at Murray Regional EMS.
Yeah.
Really love it. Now I'm the BLS supervisor.
Yeah.
I'm over all of our BLS trips and scheduling and, doctor's appointments, discharges, and we stay pretty busy.
You stay very busy.
Yes.
And you're right. I started my career in Tennessee back at Murray back in 88, 9.
I've heard some stories.
And they're not all good. Let me just be honest. But here's the interesting thing.
He wasn't always the calm person I hear.
Apparently not. I have grown since then. But here's the unique thing that I value so much is not only did I start there in my career, is my son, Chris, who's been on this podcast, worked there and worked for you.
Yes.
And so it's kind of a special thing for me. And of course, we live in Murray County.
Of course, he started a lot younger than you did.
Well, he did. Indeed, he did. But John, why I wanted you to talk to us today, there is a story that you told me just a few minutes ago. And I was like, John, I need you to share that because you shared this story with your employees and it was profound. But let's hear it, man.
Well, we had a patient several years ago and patient was going through a lot and they were going to dialysis trips and I don't know how that situation is. I have no idea. I hope I'm never in that situation, but this patient was just angry, and I'm sure, angry at life for what they're going through.
Sure.
And the crew members had gotten to where they didn't want to go get her. We didn't, know how to handle it at the time. And I decided I would jump on that call and go and just see what it was about. And they were pretty angry, and I just talked to them mainly and asked them what was going on and explained to her that we were there to help her and that we were there for her every day, 3 days a week. And she shed a tear or two and apologized and didn't realize she was treating people that way. And I mean, literally it was like a switch flipped. And from that day on, we got offered food, drinks. I mean, we was her friends, that she didn't have. And that was a lot of what, she didn't have family there. She didn't have friends that showed up to see her. So after that point, I had explained to her that we could all be great friends. And she just, she really took it real well. And we wound up when she passed, I mean, we wound up being in her funeral, not just at her funeral. And the family that did come in said she had talked so highly of all the crews and how all the friends that she had made through EMS. And, you know, I just think young people coming in need to realize that, you know, it's just not about transporting an emergency call to, you know, to a hospital anywhere. It's also about, you know, making that friendship or treating people with respect to where they now have a friend or they now have somebody that they can look forward to seeing multiple times a week, you know. So it's like I said, it worked out. All the crew members wound up loving her, and, you know, and our crews look forward to going to get certain patients throughout the week. I hear them all week long, you know, talk about certain patients, and I'll be glad when this day comes so we can go get this person. You know, so they make friendships, and then, like I said, the crews look forward to it as much as the patient looks forward to it.
It was such a powerful story, I think, for me, and why I wanted you to share that. I think that is a perfect example. A couple of things. One, you went where your crews were going, right? You got involved, but another important thing was you asked the question because you cared.
Oh, yeah.
And when she felt that you cared, it was emotional, and then it completely changed everything.
They think we're just there to work.
Yeah,
you know, and they don't realize that, you know, whether you're on the BLS side or the ALS side, you know, you're going out there. It's me and you both know it's not for the money.
That's exactly right.
When we're going out on these calls, but it's something that's in your blood and something you want to do.
Well, we appreciate that story, John. It was profound, and thanks for all you do in the service, and thanks for the mentorships and leading my son.
And congratulations on your award. And like I said, and also, I mean, you have a great son. I mean, Chris is awesome, and I wished I had several like him. So,
well, we appreciate that.
Maybe if I can talk the doctor into coming back and being an EMT later.
That's right. That's right. Hey, hopefully he will come back once he's done with school. Well, John, we appreciate it, man, and good to see you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. All right, Michael, thanks for joining us here on the podcast. So I was just in your session just a couple of minutes ago, and you finished the second full day. You did an amazing lecture, and rooms full. It's like 260 people there.
Right.
So a lot of people taking notes during your session, and I'm glad you came out. We just wanted to catch up for just a second. For those that don't know you, kind of share a little bit about where you are and who you are.
I'm Michael Donovan, critical care paramedic, director of Murray Regional EMS. We run 3 different counties: Murray County, Lewis County, and Wayne County. Currently have about 205 employees. We also have a BLS division that runs out of Murray County. We also have a community paramedic program. Not only do we go out and see patients, but we also teach a class. We just finished up our second class.
Okay.
Our second class we did open up to outside at Murray Regional. So we had several people from Lawrence and Wayne, Giles that came to this session. So growing big.
Yeah, you guys have. And I mean, you guys are, the whole South, the whole state is growing. So you guys are able to keep up with that. You've done an amazing job. You've been in your role a short period of time. And the one question that I had for you, Michael, is, you know, you're new in the leadership realm. I mean, basically, I mean, yes, you have a lot of experience, but you're kind of like the generation that is going to be around a long time. And our paths are similar. You know, we got opportunities to do leadership early, and you're more on the beginning career than I am. But one thing that I wanted to ask you is, what is one thing that you wish you would have known back then, a couple of years ago, that you know now? If you had to go back and talk to yourself, what would you say?
Get more experience, education, reach out to people, have resources. Not saying to wait to go into that position, but use resources. When I took over this role in July of 22 as an interim, I was only in my current role as assistant director for 6 months.
Which you were just still trying to figure out, as you said.
Out. So it was a big task for me to take on an organization so big.
Yes.
A couple of things that I would have done was set other supervisors and people with management down and talked more.
Okay.
As I was approaching to go for the directorship, that builds that camaraderie and that trust, right? There were some changes that I was looking at wanting to make. And this was the big eye-opener experience. And I made a change without discussing it with the other EMS supervisors. it didn't go well.
Yeah. Right.
Right. So knowing now, I would have went back and said, okay, I'm going to sit down with all my resources.
Yeah.
I'm going to sit down same way you do in an interview. Here are my clear expectations and goals. This is what we need to. When I made that change, it didn't go well. Communication is the big thing there, and I did not do that. I think if I would have started that off on the right foot there, I was able to rectify that situation. And obviously, I'm still here.
Yeah, right.
Luckily,
right.
but that's one of the biggest things I would look back on is making sure I'm using my resources, resources correctly. Lean on people.
Yeah.
Talk to other directors, talk to other services. It doesn't always work. Murray Regional is the largest EMS service in Region 6.
It's the southern part of the state.
Correct.
Yeah.
And you take that into consideration, it's like, whoa,
right.
What am I doing here? Right. But you have to roll with the punches.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have days that are difficult. You're going to have decision making that you have to make that make changes that are hard. So that would probably be the biggest thing I would really zone in on before is having that experience, that knowledge, not just so much years of doing it, but reaching out to a director that's been a director for many years and say, how do you make these changes?
Yeah.
Because I'm still getting my feet wet.
Right.
How would you go about making these changes? I wish I would have done that more starting off. I do it now.
Right. And I think we all have those lessons, right, that we learned. Well, I think it's a testament of where you are in your leadership is to be able to present at a conference like this when we're in the room and there's a lot of people with a lot of experience. And for you to be recognized and do the incredible job that you did, and we're all in this together, we all can learn from people. And we certainly did today. And we appreciate you and your service.
Oh, yeah.
And thanks
Glad
for
to be
your
here.
leadership, man.
Enjoy it.
Yeah, we'll be talking soon.
How many people have you
interviewed today?
Well, podcast with a Carhartt shirt on. And
this is the best.
Okay.
Because listen, I wish I was comfortable. I'm not comfortable, man.
Well, I'm comfortable.
I'm in a dress shirt.
You just go for it.
Jimmy Edwards, a legend in EMS. You're spending time with us today. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for asking.
Yeah. You are truly one of the most recognized leaders in the state. And you have paved the road for many of us that are, following the work that you've done. And fair to say that you're close to the end of your career in leadership?
I would say very close.
How close are we, Jimmy?
June 1st this year.
Okay.
I will step away from being the Director of Emergency Services for Montgomery County's EMA, Fire, and EMS.
Okay. I'm going to take everybody back.
Sure.
Tell us a little bit about your background in your education and your medic. Love to hear that for those that don't know you. That deep, right?
Sure. Yeah. So somewhere in late 81, I was an ambulance driver.
Like truly, that was the title, right?
Right. Yeah. So not offended by being called an ambulance driver at all. Somebody's got to drive the thing anyway.
I'm with you.
Even today.
I'm with you.
So, I was an ambulance driver and they had a free EMT class.
Okay.
Dixon Votech.
Okay.
It was offered. That was a 1982 thing. So it was a career that almost didn't happen because I had just started working on the ambulance and it seemed like every call was someone that was deceased.
Interesting.
So CPR.
Okay.
Would happen so frequently that the little hospital ER nurse would meet me on the dock with a toothbrush and a bottle of Sipicol. But so
wow.
So we were doing CPR.
Yeah, okay? I mean, we're talking mouth
without
to mouth.
Right. Without adjuncts. And the doctor, after this happened multiple times, the doctor came out and says, "Listen, Jimmy, everybody you pick up doesn't die."
You're like, information that would have been helpful on the front end.
Right. Absolutely. So what happens is eventually a call comes in and it happens to be my partner, the ambulance driver's family member. And they are sitting up in a rocking chair, not breathing, no pulse.
Okay.
And CPR.
Okay.
And this time it works. So that was the turning point. The career that almost didn't happen. So that was actually the catalyst
behind wanting to do something greater than I had been doing. So that eventually led to paramedic school, nursing school, and I've been a lifelong learner. So I've gone back to college a couple of times, and that was for biblical studies and theological degrees. So, matter of fact, I just finished my last degree 2 years ago. So.
Okay. And what is that degree in?
I have a doctorate in theology.
So Dr. Jimmy Edwards.
Jimmy would be just fine.
Now
Lee can call me Dr. Edwards. So whatever he might be.
He's the producer.
No, he's back here, right.
And he's turning red right now, which we appreciate.
I love you, Lee.
So there's one thing I wanted to share with you, and I know I don't feel, or I'm not alone when I make this statement. You probably are the most humble leader I have ever met. Like, you are not about drawing attention to yourself at all. And that is a trait that you have modeled, whether you realize it or not. I know that you do. But that was so impactful in my career, Jimmy, and watching you over the years, because you've definitely mentored me and many other people. But tell us a little bit about why you're that way and why that's important.
I think it's the servant mentality.
Okay.
I don't mind leading from the front if that's needed.
Okay.
But prefer to prepare people so that they are the next in line.
Yeah.
It's to, my job working for Mayor Wes Golden of Montgomery County is to make Mayor Wes Golden look good. My job as the emergency service director is to make the chief of EMS look. So it's actually, I think it's our job as coaches or being mentors or being leaders that we are more helpful, helping folks lead and kind of staying, the Wizard of Oz thing. It's the man behind the curtain helping things be built.
I've never heard it put that way. The man behind the curtain, really. That is a absolutely beautiful thing that you just don't say. Like, you have done this, and the people that we have known over the years that have worked for you or worked with you has been an amazing. And your career has taken you all over the state. You worked for the state at one time.
Yes.
Being a consultant.
Wonderful job. Wonderful.
You've consulted many of us along the way, and you're going to be thoroughly missed, but I promise you the things that you have done are going to continue to carry on. And tell us now, so you're in your position that you are, getting ready to go to the next season of your life.
Yes.
What is some advice that you could give someone that is wanting to explore leadership as a new provider coming in? Tell us some advice that you've learned over the years, if you could summarize it in a couple of things.
Yeah, so I would say that to be well studied, know the topic well, is that you have 2 ears, 1 mouth, so you need to listen twice as much as you might speak or inject your opinion, and that you keep your nose to the grindstone, and that you be willing to step out front if needed. But if you have opportunities to be in the background and kind of orchestrate and help build and help develop, I would say that those would be just some tidbits or just nuggets for folks that are looking for entry level leadership stuff. So you certainly wouldn't want to be the leader of the IV team if you've not started an IV. You certainly wouldn't want to be the guest lecturer for the leadership if you've never been in a leadership position. So anyways.
Yeah. Just take it as it comes, right?
Absolutely.
And enjoy it. That is incredible advice. And Jimmy, I'll tell you, I'm grateful to call you friend, and for everything that you have done for EMS in the state will long live past all of us, the impact and the impression. We're grateful that you joined us today.
And greater things are to come. So I appreciate the invite.
Thanks for joining us today on the TEMSEA Leadership Podcast. We had an awesome time here at the TASA Conference. We hope that you join us again soon. And remember, the most important person you will ever lead is you.